Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss I'm Still Here, set in Brazil, starring Fernanda Torres, Fernanda Montenegro, Sultan Mello, and Valentina Herzog. Forgive me if I said that wrong. Directed by Walter Salas. Now, before I get into this is the second foreign language film I reviewed this week, with after Emilia Perez, which if you saw that review, you know I said it was really bad. But we'll see if this is an improvement of the international feature film, or should it get it or not. Let's get into it. It's 1971 in Rio de Janeiro. Brazil is at as it's a war zone, and we follow the Paiva family who are at the beach, and Veroca is trying to play a game of volleyball, and others are relaxing on the beach until Marcelo and Baby U find a dog on the beach and name him Pimpao. And they tell the father Rubens is in a business meeting with his business partner, while Veroca is riding in a car with her friends until they get pulled over by the Brazilian military, looking for someone as they harass them, which reminded me of what's going on in the news today, which I don't watch too much of, I'll say. And that's just as depressing as this movie is, while the mother Eunice is worried about Veroca being out of for the longest time until she gets home. And the actress who plays Eunice is Fernanda Torres, who is the best thing about this movie and was part of the reason I stayed awake, because on my first viewing, I saw this twice. I almost fell asleep, but her performance was amazing and kept me awake for this entire movie, despite I couldn't read subtitles too fast, as this is a 2-hour, 16-minute movie. Veroca tells Rubens, aka her father, about what happened to her, and later at nighttime, and after he and Eunice talk about moving Veroca to England, Rubens gets a phone call from his work, and Marcella comes in to play a game I remember playing as a kid called foosball, and wake up for the rest of the family. And next day comes, and Marcelo and his sister Niku, no, was it Niku? Whatever. And the maid Zizi washed the dog as, no, was, anyways, let's move on. Wash the dog as we watch home movies with the family, as it's confirmed Veroca is moving to England, as the whole family will miss her, and the cinematography is pretty good. But the movie, while Veroca is packing up for England and asks for Eunice's old jacket, which Rubens gave to her at their honeymoon, and tells her not to lose it. And I like the characters, as they were good characters. They have a farewell party for Veroca as she joins in on her father's business until Eunice comes in and stops it, as he and has some food and listen to some American music. And Ruben stops the music and dances to some Brazilian music as he dances with Veroca. While they film it, and Babu loses a tooth and asks Ruben to bury the tooth in the beach, and she runs away and he gets the tooth back behind her back, and they take a family photo, and they see the military go past by them in the beach, and someone in the military calls the house asking for Rubens while he's at work, and he gets a letter and footage from Veroca while in England, and we see the footage, and the footage looks fantastic as they watch the home movie again with different narrations, and the movie is well told in my opinion. Rubens answers the door as Eunice is worried about him, and they talk about it the next day, and Rubens gets taken by some men led by Schneider calmly, while the other men stick around and watch after the family, as Rubens has some wrong turns coming from the dictator of Brazil, as Nalu comes home, and as she asks Rubens something as she's about to leave, they tell her not to leave, and Eunice wants to go with her husband, but they demand the family to stay on inside watch view, I should say. And the men stay around to keep them company as they watch them eat breakfast the next day, and that seems very uncomfortable. And the men tell Eunice as she gets the phone it's for Rubens. He's out of town, and they watch the TV, and Eliana wants to go out with friends, but Schneider tells her no, and I feel so bad for Eliana, as she can't leave because of some bad men who are watching the entire family in the house. And Marcelo plays foosball with one of the bad men until Eunice puts him upstairs, as director Walter Salas does a good job at telling this story well, as it's very well told. Eunice is very worried about Rubens not coming back, as she looks for something from Rubens while one of the bad men goes to sleep. And we move on to the next morning, and Eunice and Ileana are asked to go with them to be questioned by the dictator, as they take him to the interrogation room as they rush there and puts the blindfolds on their heads. And Eunice gets questioned first, and she hears someone getting tortured, and they ask if she recognizes anyone in some photos twice, as the first time she skipped through and it looks carefully the second time, and her interrogation did take a while, as the movie can be very slow sometimes, as I almost fell asleep on my first viewing of this movie, but I stayed awake thanks to the performance by Fernanda Torres. I hope she gets the Best Actress Oscar. That's my prediction, that she's going to win Best Actress. Eunice passes by and Eliana, and the guard puts her in a jail cell for quite a while. And the editing was okay in this movie, as it's a little too long at 2 hours and 16 minutes, and 15 minutes could have been cut out, and part of it could be right here, while Eunice is trapped and interrogated by the guards as she counts down at the days she's been in jail, and days go by and continues marking them down until the guard doesn't approve their releasing Eunice and take her home, and she takes a shower all scared and gets in the shower to clean herself, while Eliana sees her in the shower scene. And as far as nudity goes, that was a very haunting shot, as it scared the hell out of me on my first viewing, for damn sure. Eunice gets out of the shower, and Elenia, seeing her mother is back home, and Eunice puts on the towel, and they hug each other, and Eliana tells everyone in the house to not see her now, but by morning, and they wake up and have breakfast together, and Eliana sleeps with Eunice, as Eliana doesn't want Eunice to call anyone as the rest of the family comes in, and the family friend comes over, and helps them out, and Eunice decides to leave Brazil and take the kids with her, as she has to debate on it so far, and she decides to give Rubens his medicine for his diabetes, and they don't have him at the prison where they had him, and but they moved him somehow, and she interrupts a church school session with the woman, and Eunice doesn't want the kids to hear what's happening on the news. At this point, I was slightly kind of bored with the movie at this point. Eunice sees some men outside of their house as Pim Pow, the dog, barks at them, and Eunice goes to the bank and to try to get Rubens' money out, but she unfortunately can't, while she makes a withdrawal and gets a letter from Veroka, and she's led to believe in a hard way that Rubens is leading to be released, while I unfortunately thought he was dead. While Ileana decides to start smoking cigarettes, and Marcelo wants some, but she declines, which is pretty hypocritical of Eliana to say no while smoking herself. And next thing comes as they read the letter from Veroka, and Pim Pow the dog gets killed by a hit and run in a car, and tells the people who are watching him to get out of the neighborhood, while the kids are sad for Pim Pow. And that made me so sad when Pim Pow the dog was killed, as thank God it was off screen, and they bury the poor doggy, while I connected with the family, as I felt bad for them. Veroka wants to come home, and Eliana is upset with that Eunice is lying to her about something, as she slaps Eliana, and I thought, damn, that was harsh. And this is so far a pretty damn depressing movie, as an envelope is delivered under the door from someone who knows Rubens, as it was a letter from the prisoner next to him. And the next day comes, and they go out for ice cream, and afterhand, Eunice swims and gets some news about her husband's death. And that was a sad scene. And Eunice is fed up with living in Rio and decides to move away from there. And the acting in that scene is powerfully dramatic. And I'm starting to think Fernanda Torres is going to take home the Oscar for Best Actress, like I said, as she was amazing in this movie. Next thing comes, and Eunice digs some stuff off the property and visits a friend and makes a withdrawal and walks into Eliana's bedroom, and Veroka comes back to Brazil from England, and next thing you know, The tabloid takes a photo of the family as Veroka wants to know exactly what happened to her father, as Eunice explains how corrupted the government of Brazil is, while Veroka realizes something is wrong and asks Eliana, and she says she doesn't like talking about it in the house. And Eunice tells the whole family they're moving to Sao Paulo, and she's thinking about going back to college, and an upcoming restaurant is taking place where the house is, and the kids are absolutely upset about it, and I know what that's like, as it's a powerful story that is well told, but at the same time, I'm kind of bored with it. They move away from the house and say their goodbyes to their family and friends, and before they leave, Babio says her goodbye to the house, while Eunice tells her she had her baby tooth, and the whole time, as she with Rubens know about it, and Eliana is almost reluctant to leave home in Rio, but lives one more memory at the beach, which is right next to where they lived, as that was a great shot of the beach in Rio, as Veroka films the house as they leave it behind, and they leave, and we move on to Sao Paulo 25 years later in the year 1996. And Babio, I guess is her name, swimming at the pool while living in an apartment with Eunice, and she's typing in reschedules her flight, as she's a teacher now, Eunice is, and she gets a phone call saying her husband Rubens is dead, or someone's dead, I don't know who it was, as they bring Babio and Marcelo, who's now a handicap, as he's a writer now, and they grab the death certificate of Ruben, or whoever it is, and one of the workers named Carla, who asks Marcelo for an autograph on a copy of the book he wrote, and as adults, it was nice to see them grow up, but I was sad we were leaving 1971 behind. They get the death certificate of Rubens and get the tabloids involved, and they take photographs and look through some pretty old family photos and trying to find the appropriate photo of Rubens, while Babio and Marcelo talks about when they knew their father was dead. And that's painful dialogue, but at the same time, this might win the Best International Feature Film at the Oscars of this year. Hopefully, because if you saw my review of Emilia Perez, I thought that damn thing was dreadful. As next day comes, and Eunice goes on her trip and looks at herself in the mirror and looks at a newspaper article called Who Killed Rubens Paiva? And looking up the case, as well as an old family photo, as well as a home movie. And boy, oh boy, is this a damn depressing movie. Of what? Because the score tells me in the scene as half of in this damn movie. We move on to Sao Paulo in the year 2014, as they have a family lunch while Eunice is elderly, sitting in a wheelchair, and has grandchildren, as Babio brought some ice cream and see the grandchild having some fun. And we move on to Eunice seeing on the TV Rubens might not be dead, but missing, as she's amazed he might be still alive. And they take a family photo, and we roll credits with some family photos going for most of the credits. And the climax was depressing, as was this whole damn movie. But how do I feel about it? Let's talk about it. I'll give this movie a 6.9 out of 10. The performance by Fernando Torres was the reason I'm giving this movie the rating I am, and that's because it was very well done. She's going to take home the Oscar for Best Actress as my prediction, as she kept me awake for this whole movie on my first viewing. Despite I can't read subtitles that go too quickly, and I like the other characters as they were good characters, and the cinematography is good throughout the movie. It's well told by the movie's director, Walter Salas, as he does a good job telling the story, as he tells it very well. And there were times the movie was slow, as I did almost fall asleep the first time I saw the film, but don't get me wrong, it's well made. But at the same time, this movie's a little too long at 2 hours and 16 minutes. As part of it could have been cut out and left in the editing room floor. But don't get me wrong, though. It was a pretty powerful story that I wouldn't watch again after both of my viewings, as this might be better than Emilia Perez as far as the Best International Feature Film at the Oscars is concerned. And some shots were good while others were haunting. And it is a recommendation for this movie, but damn was it depressing. I felt so friggin' bad for them as they had to go through all this hell, as that depressed the hell out of me. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with The Substance. And until then, and the Oscar goes to...